Get ready for the PATS Nation, the only real deal New England Patriots Post Game show. Sponsored by Corso Law Group. Allow us to be your voice. And Special Sauce Podcast. Startup, finance, and drive yourself to success. And now, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into the PATS Nation with Corso and Catone. This week 7 of the NFL season sees the Patriots fall hard to the San Francisco 49ers, 33-6. And I'm joined as always by Mark Catone and your calls, 855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. And we also want to hear from you on our live chat on YouTube right now. Subscribe, chat, write in. We want to hear about this. We're going to break down the game, get to everything. And Mark, listen, I never thought I would hear myself. I never thought I wanted to bring myself to say this. But I think here we are, and I think the dynasty is now dead. Again, I never wanted to hear that myself say that. I knew at some point it would, and maybe it died a long time ago. We want to hear from you and everyone else out there. But this is Mark. This is a bad football team right now, from top to bottom. It's poorly constructed, poorly managed, poorly coached, and poorly played. Body language and otherwise, Mark.
Yeah, this was a putrid performance. It was awful. Every aspect of the game was bad. You name it: defense, offense, special teams, coaching, everything. We have a lack of talent. We're just a bad team. We're no different than the rest of those teams out there that end up their seasons 5-11, 4-12, 3-13. I think we're going down that road. Unless they shock us and something. This isn't we're on to Cincinnati. This is a bad football team. And I think we have to now come to that realization and accept the fact that it's a bad football team. And I didn't want to believe it. You didn't want to believe it. Maybe all the signs were there before the season started, Chris. But we just, it's bad.
Yeah, I really don't want to bring myself to do this and to go through this rebuild that I see it happening. But Mark, we're here and there's just so many things. And again, we want to hear from you. 855-313-PATS. Chat in, write in, tell us where you think this ended. Where did it end? Did it end today? Did it end prior to today? This offseason, 2 years ago, a year ago, last week? But I guess we get started on the offense right away and Cam Newton in this offense and let's start with Newton, okay? Because last week, we had a lot to say about COVID, say about them shutting their facility down and, trying to protect the players and so on. And they shouldn't be put through that kind of thing. Well, they need more practice time. Belichick said it. But they had their practice time. They had a full week of practice. They had plenty of chances to get ready for a San Francisco team. And look, Mark, this is a San Francisco team that's depleted. There's no Bosa on the other side. There's no Abraham. There's no a lot of guys on that defensive side of the ball. And a couple of guys even went out during this game. Not to mention on the offensive side of the ball where you had running backs out, wide receivers out. Samuel even went out at some point in this game or got hurt a little bit. They're depleted as depleted can be. And they certainly didn't look that way today. So again, getting back to starting off with this offense and starting with Cam Newton, man, he looks nothing like he did in Seattle and even in Vegas, against Vegas, the Raiders, just nothing at all like it. And I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but he's not throwing the ball with any type of confidence. I don't know if it's a shoulder. I don't know what his issue is, but he doesn't look like the same guy, does he, Mark?
No, he doesn't, Chris. So I'm wondering if teams all of a sudden said, okay, they got a chance to look at film, what this revised new offense was going to be, and said, okay, here's how we stop this because they got no receivers. So we're just going to stack the line of scrimmage. We're going to put everybody in the box. The couple of different things that teams are now doing, I think, because they realize our skilled position players are horrible, absolutely horrible. I think it's an easy thing to stop. So I think Newton looks bad, and maybe that's how damn good number 12 was. That as bad as those weapons are, there were games last year that Brady, so But maybe we didn't give number 12 enough credit for what he did do last year because we were so bad offensively. And now Newton's really showing you how bad we are because, Brady compensated for it. So I don't know, Chris. It's going to be a long season unless you make a couple of moves at the trade deadline. It's going to be a long season because you have no skilled players, And then that bum Harry, which I know we're going to get into the wide receivers soon. The bum Harry goes out because he's soft and has no business being on a football field, in my opinion. And I've brought that up before. Harry's terrible, and he goes out today because he's soft. I understand he got a concussion. You don't want to see anybody get hurt, but he's just a soft player.
We want to get to the phones right now. We have Paula calling in from Chandler and Del Boca Vista. Paula, you're in the Pats Nation. Go ahead. Well, Paula, we've been better. Paula, listen. Why don't you lower the volume on your broadcast? So, yes. So go ahead, Paula. You're in.
Well, I just want to say, I know you guys. First of all, you're doing a great job on the show. It's really nice to hear you up there talking about all the good things. But we got to remember that we are Pats fans, and yes, they had a bad week. Cam Newton looks like he's still not feeling well. He doesn't look 100%. But you know what? We're going to give him another chance. Yes, they had the offense was not good. The defense was a little cloudy. We've had a lot of issues, but you know what? They know what they have to do, and we got to give them the credit that they have. So we're going to keep plugging for them. That's how I feel. I just can't help it. When you're a Pats fan, you're a Pats fan. That's all I have to say. But listen, you guys, you're doing a great job, and we'd love to hear you on the radio.
So
good luck. Take care.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks for calling in. We appreciate all the kind words.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, listen, Mark. The Patriots fans out there, they're going to be Patriots. Patriots fans are Patriots fans, and that's why I think that the New England fans are the best fans on the planet, in my opinion. For all the sports, including the Patriots. And yeah, absolutely. Listen, Paul, don't worry. Don't stress out. We're here. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be in on the Pats Nation, and we're going to be talking about Patriots until they're kicking dirt over us. Mark, I mean, right? Look, we've been doing this for almost 30 years now. Unofficially. So, listen, I understand what you're saying. We want to hold out hope. We want to keep the faith in what this team is and what they've been. And I'm sure that we've seen some lean years prior to this dynasty, this 20 years. A lot of kids now don't really remember any of that, the Hugh Millen days, But you can't ignore, Mark, how you got here. You can't ignore what went on to get to this point and some of the deficiencies and the things that they have not paid attention to and done, whether it be the draft, whether it be personnel, free agency, mismanagement of their veteran talent and what they do with it and how they construct this team. And that's something we were going to get to in the segment, but we can talk about that now. We'll continue with the offense on the other side of the break. But Mark, look at, they've always been a team that's been able to say, okay, and you mentioned this throughout this game today, that they could bring guys in, veteran talent, guys that are maybe up there in their in age a little bit and their in experience, to come in and basically say, okay, we're going to just plug you in, plug and play. And that was fine when you had guys like Brady, and even back in the day when you had guys like Bruschi and Vrabel and, McGinnis and guys like that, Ty Laws of the world and so on, Revis and company, Mayo. But now at this point, Brady's gone.
Chris, think of all the guys you just mentioned. Those guys were all drafted.
They were all players drafted, brought through the system.
And
some of those guys were drafted with Parcells too. But
they were.
But I guess my point, Mark, is that you had veteran leadership. You had guys that were still playing at a high level, that you could do that. You can infuse talent that way. You can bring guys in. I don't know that that's going to be able to, and maybe it's just simply put, Mark, that was okay to do with Brady. Maybe that's just the simple fact of it. Maybe the simple fact is when you had number 12, you can do those kinds of things and be okay and get away with it and just and have not medium to high talent across the board, or previous great talent that is now medium with experience and knowledge and football smarts with the coaching. But you can't do that without a Brady. And I'm not sure what their succession plan is now moving forward, because Mark, they're in the worst shape. They're in the worst situation. We said in the offseason, hey, look, we both agreed with bringing Newton in here. I thought, hey, this guy's going to shine with Belichick. And at first it started to be that way. Now maybe we're digging the hole too quick here, after this loss. But man, we said the worst case scenario would be if Newton comes in here, it doesn't perform well. We realize Stidham's not the guy either. And now there's no plan. Oh. And I kind of feel like we're at that point. Do you?
No, we are. I think, well, Chris, I think, first of all, I don't know. I still don't know if you know what Newton is. I know he looked bad today, but damn, do you realize how bad our receivers are and the people we have on offense is, Chris? You have an NFL team. Let me just say this to you. You have an NFL team, other than the offensive line. There's not one skilled player on that offense that would play for Belichick's friend at Alabama, Nick Saban. There's not a player on that offense. Maybe Newton. Wide receiver, tight end. They wouldn't play.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even play on a college team. They wouldn't be in the starting lineup. That's how much talent a college team has that you don't have.
Yeah, they really have very little right now. And just on Newton's day, 9 of 15, 98 yards, 3 interceptions. And Mark, those were bad interceptions.
No, they were
too.
bad. But Chris, I'm going to tell you something also. They were bad. But also, when your quarterback's in trouble, you got Damian Burge running straight down the field, never looks back to see, should I come back for the ball? Is my quarterback in trouble? He just puts his head down and runs. What's he running track? What's he?
It looked like he was three. It was like he looked like he was 3/4 speeding a 9 route down the sideline.
I thought, you're being nice. I thought he was running the 4x400 relay. I thought he was with the baton. I thought he was going to pass it to the guy in front of him. He just put his head down and kept running. What, are you kidding me?
Yeah, and it wasn't even a hard push to get open.
It was awful.
And but again, Newton doesn't look comfortable.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't look comfortable. He doesn't look like he's throwing the ball well. That interception he threw to 50, I think it was 54, that they were, and he's a good football player. Yeah, absolutely. That linebacker over there. That pass he threw to them was just a weak pass. I didn't know that there were guys at his feet or anything like that. It's just the ball came out funny. It was Fred Warner, who, by the way, had 3 solo tackles, an interception, quarterback hits. He was all over the field.
Let me ask you this. I mean, I know Paula brought it up, our caller. So is there something up with Newton? Is he still feeling? I mean, they kept saying he was asymptomatic. Is he feeling the effects of COVID? Was he really sick? We don't know. Because they'll never tell you if he was really sick. So he just looks so different than he did the first few weeks. And the receivers are the same. The skilled players are the same. I mean, is it just that teams have figured out, okay, listen, this is the couple of things you got to do to stop them because they got nothing on offense, and all of a sudden now that's how teams are playing defense? I don't know.
Well, look, we said it when they played against the Raiders. Okay, he had a throw against the Raiders where I said what? In that game, I said, this is what Cam Newton does. Things start to happen, and he throws the ball to the wrong team. He throws it off back legs. His arm movement has always been unorthodox and not traditional anyway. But he seemed to be doing more of that. Now Vegas was the last game, and then there was the time. And then he was out with COVID, and then there was this past game before this where we gave him the apology saying he hadn't played in 21 days. Now here he is again throwing the ball that way. So, yeah, he was under some pressure. I get it, but he just doesn't look right. He doesn't look confident. He doesn't look right. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if his arm hurts, and I'm not going to apologize for him.
No,
I'm not going to do it. I mean, the guy, he's there. He's starting a game. He's supposed to be fine. Had a whole full week of game planning, ready to go. A depleted defense for the San Francisco. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that there's serious issues with the talent level on this team, and we've been saying that all along. But he didn't look right. So if he's not right, now what? Because we were talking last week about, hey, you know, you want to re-up this guy, you want to get him signed now, get him signed right away, get him signed immediately. We were talking about that a couple of weeks ago. Well, I don't know. I think we got to pump the brakes on that right now. And later on in the show, we're going to talk about the draft, the trade deadline, talk about should we be buyers or sellers, and I think today gives you the answer to that question.
Chris, you know what's really disturbing to me? We knew going into the season what offensively that we what we had, right? We knew what we were on offense, and we figured Newton would compensate for some of that, maybe because he could run around the pocket and do some things that Brady couldn't do, right? But the defense, I think, is a little shocking. The fact that they were pushed all over the field again today, they can't stop anybody. I mean, I thought defensively today, Chris, and I know we might have a whole segment set up for the defense.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get into the defense.
We're going to get into the defense, but I just wanted to bring this up and we'll get into it in detail. I just think the defense, I'm in shock that the defense is that bad. And they are bad.
Well, so then the question becomes this too. And yeah, we got to break that down. We need to break down.
We're going to break it down in more detail.
But the question becomes this too. So is it a product of, you know, this defense is just good enough to be what they are? You know, we really got to focus, you know, the fact that the issues that they're having on offense just completely magnify the issues they're having on defense too now. Could that be an issue? Or is it just simply this bend don't break mentality and this secondary just isn't performing as good as them? We're going to get to Gilmore too, because again, he should be on the block right now. Okay. Because he had another poor performance today. You know, he had another poor performance. But Mark, going into the skill position. So yeah, okay, we talked about Newton. Stidham, he was 6 of 10, 64 yards, an interception. Can't help but throw an interception every time he steps on the field, this guy. No, he's not even close to ready. He's not even close to being able to. I don't think he has any idea what he's looking at out there.
No,
okay, so no, I don't think this guy is the answer at all. I don't think he's the answer at all. And right now, I don't know that Cam Newton's the answer either. I don't know. Maybe Trevor Lawrence is. And I don't think it's due to tanking. I just think this team's that bad right now. Look, Mark, listen. Okay, and before we go to break, I want to talk about the receiving core. Okay, because right now the running backs, look, they rushed for 94 yards today. Damian Harris had 58 yards on 10 carries, averaged 5.8, had a long of 12. Look, I think the running backs are serviceable. I think they're good backs. I think Damian Harris is going to be a good back. I'm not worried. I'm not that concerned about Harris, Burkhead, White, these guys. I mean, maybe in the offseason they bring somebody else in, you know, that can get reps back there. But man, this wide receiving core is it's shameful. I mean, it's just shameful what they're putting out on the field. Mark, Myers, Bird, Edelman, Harry. You know, I don't know what to say about this team.
Edelman is listen, he's done.
Edelman's done.
Right? Edelman's done, right? Maybe he's probably injured. You know, he's listed every week with his knee, and I get it. But I think Edelman's done, right? Unless, you know, you get rid of him at the end of the year. Maybe Brady plays another year. He
had 3 targets. He had 1 catch for 13 yards, and that catch came from Stidham.
I'm sure Brady could convince Arians to bring him back, to bring him in for a year if Brady's still down
sure,
there
yeah. Well, sure, yeah, but that's Tom Brady's team there. He'll take anybody he wants. Criminals, everybody. They'll bring them all off.
Listen, I'm going to say something to you. We're going to get into this later in the show. I've been converted.
What?
I've been converted to Tommy. I've been converted to Tommy, boy. I've been against him every week.
Well, he certainly won the week. He certainly won the week.
Oh, he won the week. He won the season. He's won a lot more than the week, and we'll get into that later. He's won more than that. But listen, getting back to the receiving core, Chris, Harry, I don't think there's anything else to say about Harry. I don't even think you can waste your breath on him anymore. The kid's not I know he got hurt today. I get it, but the kid he just doesn't have it, Chris. You don't have it, that kid. And you know, Myers is an undrafted player who every so often gives you a little something. Bird was terrible today. I mean, you got nothing. You got nothing at the Asiasi was inactive. What? I mean,
You know,
moved up in the third round of the draft to take that kid. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
they activated Keene today.
He caught a ball.
And they deactivated Asiasi. You know, I watch games around the league today, and I see Pittsburgh, and I just see guys that are making plays, back shoulder throws, guys I haven't heard of before, guys with speed, guys that are coming up out of nowhere, coming off the practice squad, coming out of their draft. Just all around the league, you see guys that are making plays. Okay, and every year there just seems to be a new infusion of that kind of talent, speed.
Not
Otherwise,
here.
except in New England. There's just no talent at the wide receiver position and the tight end position. I consider the tight ends as an extension of the wide receivers.
Well, Chris,
There's no talent. Mark, yeah, and I agree. Listen, I agree with Harry. Enough with Harry now. He's and I'll tell you something else. What's going to tell you what Belichick thinks of Harry
the kid stinks.
is what's going to happen with the rest of the season.
He's going on IR.
Because I agree with that. I predict that this kid will go on IR and be done for the season with this head injury now, because he's probably got a concussion coming off the field, and we hope he's okay, obviously. But I agree. I think if you see him go to the IR right now,
you will never see him again.
And not that he's done. And again, it's a first round pick, completely wasted. Metcalf, Claypool, Deebo Samuel, we saw him today. Okay.
What about the other kid I told you? From the same draft as Metcalf, I told you, Chris, I'll take the other kid from Mississippi before this kid, Harry.
Yeah.
Kid Brown, who got 156 yards to the A.J. Brown for Tennessee. So I don't want to hear it. There was no excuse for taking Harry. No excuse.
Right. And again,
they did.
So once again,
we're beating a dead horse there.
Here we are beating a dead horse there. And after Harry, there's nothing else. They have nothing else. And coming out of the block.
Your offense, Chris, was so dependent upon the tight end. And now it's an irrelevant part of the offense. How is that even possible that you haven't replaced Gronk? And you still haven't replaced him. You took two guys in the third round. They're two stiffs, I think. Well, I know the guy from UCLA is a stiff. I don't know. The kid from Virginia Tech, I'll hold out and see what maybe he can give you something. I don't know.
Yeah, but Mark, he's not going to be, this is not going to be a Gronk. This is not going to be a Waller. This is not going to be a Kittle. This is going to be somebody who can help you on third down, who can block well, who could do some gadget things for you, get out of the backfield. But this is not an answer to the problem. It's just not, and again, these guys, look, at the half, I think they had 56 total yards at the half. Their offense stunk. It just stunk.
Chris, period. At halftime, I think they had 56 total yards. I think San Fran had like 310.
Yeah, listen, it's and on the other side of the break, and it's a good time to get it because I think we've beat it to death on the offense. There's nothing else to say. I mean, write in. I want to know what you people think about this offense, because to me, this is an absolute failure by management. Okay, by Belichick, okay, to infuse this team with any type of talent, at the skill positions. Yeah, the offensive line, that's the strength of this team. They're going to be good. They're going to be good for some years to come, and that's fantastic, and that's great, and we're over. But I at the skill position, there's nothing there, and now we're concerned about what do you have at quarterback.
Well, Chris, let me just end the segment with this. However, you built this team to make a run with Brady. Now, you knew last year was going to be Brady's last year, probably with you. Well, I think you knew last year was his last year because of what you did the year before. You didn't want to give him what he wanted. But you also constructed this team so you were in salary cap purgatory. So you couldn't put anything, you couldn't add to this roster because of the mismanagement and mishandling of the salary cap by the team that was supposed to be the gurus of doing that. To give Brady another shot last year, you totally destroyed whatever salary cap we had for going into this season. You had more guys on the books, dead money on the books. It was just total mismanagement from top to bottom, including the cap.
$9 million for the guy who's going to be catching passes in a couple of weeks from Brady.
$9 million for the guy that's going to run him on the field in Tampa. Yeah.
Right. And now, and the second round pick for Sanu. A lot of mismanagement. 855-313-PATS. Want to get to the defense on the other side. Yeah, we're thoroughly disgusted with this. Want to know how you feel? Write in, type in. More Pats Nation after this.
how do I get to the point where I understand my passion enough to communicate it outward and dial myself in so that I can craft my own sauce? But you don't have anyone that's going to give you the right advice. Now you do. We've been discussing where we live and what areas do we want to always talk about. And really, it's startup, it's finance, and drive. We are Special Sauce Podcast.
In with more Pats Nation, Corso and Catone, talking about that offense and how pitiful. And Mark, now I think you're probably going to see us get pretty irritated and aggravated and pissed off because, again, Mark, leading into the season, you knew you didn't have much on offense. You knew you didn't have the weapons and any kind of, the type of talent or an infusion of talent. But on defense, this was a top defense in the league last year. Yeah, we had the opt-outs, okay? You lost Hightower, you lost Chung. You lost some guys to free agency and Roberts and Van Noy and some of these guys but the secondary was supposed to be, they were supposed to be the linchpin. They were going to get this thing done for this team. And I'll tell you what, this is now 2 weeks in a row, the bend don't break mentality. I can't find anything on defense that I'm pleased with today, Mark. Garoppolo, before you go, just getting into the numbers. And by the way, again, a lot of injuries on the San Fran side of the ball, but Garoppolo was 20 for 25, 277 yards, okay? And he had 2 picks. So, I mean, Garoppolo wasn't fantastic and spectacular today, but the running game, they rushed for 197 yards, Mark. Garoppolo was 4 of that, but McKinnon was a -1. So, 194 yards this team gave up today. And they gave it up all up on the edges. Go, Mark. I'm disgusted with this friggin' defense.
Yeah, well, listen, we talked about the defense a couple of weeks ago. We said that they were suspect. They had a bad week, this and that. And then we thought maybe they made some improvements and maybe they made some adjustments. But the secondary, which is the strength of the team, was terrible today. The edges are non-existent. You have so many holes, Chris, on this defense. I don't even know where you begin. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I guess.
Did it look like, but before we go break down the individual performances, because I thought Gilmore sucked today. Okay.
He played terrible.
I thought the edge, did it seem to you like they were quitting? Like this was a team all around, offense, defense, every all around, that they just not quitting, but just were flat.
They didn't quit. They were flat. Yeah, they were flat, Chris.
I mean, I heard Belichick in the post game talk about that he thought they competed.
They didn't compete.
Mark, that's a bunch of BS, and that's just Belichick being Belichick in his press conferences. Don't tell me how can you compete when you allow 194 yards rushing from everybody but the quarterback, 197 total yards rushing? How the hell is that competing?
They didn't compete today, Chris. That's bullshit. They didn't compete today. That's BS. They didn't compete today. Come on. They were a disgrace from the opening drive. The opening drive, for crying out loud. Bentley misses a quarterback sack. He's in his, the defensive lineman, Butler, has him. He runs through Butler, and then Bentley can't stop the quarterback. He lets him run over him. Are you kidding me?
And that was on third down. That was to get off the field. That was the first drive of the game.
That's what I'm saying. So don't tell me you competed. You didn't compete. You played terrible today. And the defensive line, Chris, we talked about it before the season started. They lost Shelton. They lost some guys in the center of that defensive line. You went and picked up that guy from Tampa. He's never seen the field. What's his name? I don't even remember his name. He's been out for so long. He doesn't get on the field. Your edges. Where was Uche? I thought they activated the rookie today. Did he get on the field?
Yeah, I was trying to look for that during the game, and I thought he came off IR along with Andrews. Now, Chris, but I guess I was mistaken.
Chris, here's a kid. When they drafted him, they said he was the steal of the draft. He's a first-round talent. He's the steal of the draft. The kids never saw the field.
We're halfway through the season, and this is this typical crap from them. It's the typical nonsense from the New England Patriots, where they get these guys, they draft them, and they put them on the shelf, and you don't see them.
But he was the steal of the draft, they said. What was the steal of what
Well, I
draft?
can tell you this right now, okay? Talking about the steal of the draft, okay. All I can tell you is this was the same performance. This was a similar performance than what they had as to what they had last week against Denver. The difference between Denver and San Fran is San Fran was punching the ball in.
Yeah.
Okay, they were putting the ball in the end zone, and that's why this score looks
You're
the way
right,
it
Chris.
does.
They played just you're right. You're absolutely right, Chris. They played just as bad last week, but Denver couldn't put the ball in the end zone, and San Fran did, right?
Jeff
and if
Wilson,
it wasn't for
Jr.
and Chris,
3 touchdowns.
Chris, if it wasn't for a couple of poor decisions by Garoppolo, they probably should have scored over 40 points.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, can you imagine if they had the talent level that they usually have?
Hey, this game would have been you would have been embarrassed. You would have been embarrassed.
And look,
what do you think, Chris? What's going to happen when Baltimore comes in here?
Look, credit. Let's give credit to San Fran and Shanahan because what they were doing, they were getting to the edge, and when there wasn't an edge, they made their own edge. When you see them throw bubble screens like that, come with backs lined up in the backfield and then bubble out to the sideline, that's creating another edge. That's creating an edge for yourself to get out to get out wide. It's creating, and when Mark and I say the edge, we mean their ability to get wide, to run the ball wide, or to get pass plays wide and get to the sidelines. And they did that anytime they felt like it. And when New England would seal the edge on the running game, they created a new edge by throwing those bubble screens, and linebackers were late getting to them. Defensive backs were too either late or not physical enough to fight through the traffic to get to those bubble screens. And you saw it. Hey, look, listen, if you're going to put on, because I hang this on Cowart, Calhoun, I hang it on Simon, I hang it on these guys that are Jennings, these guys that are supposed to seal this edge, okay, and force everything back inside, okay? I put it all on those guys. Absolutely. There were some holding calls and things like that, but San Francisco did a fantastic job of getting their players to the edge all day long today. And then when you're going to put 5, 6, 7 defensive backs on the field, which is all we seem to do now, okay, is put all of those defensive backs out there. None of them were helping enough in the running game. None of them. And when they did come up to make tackles, they whiffed, they missed, including the captain, including the McCourty. Okay, because there was a couple of plays where that ball got strung wide. The defensive end didn't seal, gets beat to the outside, and then McCourty comes up and gets beat inside. Gets that sideline and gets a move, and off he goes down the sideline for 20 yards. It was disgusting. It was a pitiful performance of tackling, of positional football, of being in the proper position to make a play. Those defensive backs were not in the position to make a play all day long. They were late on everything. They overran things. There was no breakdown. There was no wrapping of backs or wide receivers. They were late on throws. Stephon Gilmore, okay, to me was atrocious today. He was atrocious in his run help, and he was in his pass defense. He was playing. Look, you're the reigning defensive player of the year, and you're a guy that's coming up on a contract. Mark, we're going to talk about the trade deadline in a couple of segments. What New England should be doing. That's a guy that should be on the block right now. Because you're not going to re-sign that guy. You're not going to give him a ton of money that he's going to be looking for, Jalen Ramsey type money, and whoever the hell else is getting that kind of money. He's not worth that anymore. He's not going to get that kind of money from New England.
No.
So trade him, because right now he is not having a good year. He didn't have a good first 3 games. Okay. And then he followed it up with a pretty decent game 4. But this one and last one, he's not, he has those. If you remember when he brought him in, he has those kind of games where he takes games off, plays off, he disappears, especially when it's not just straight man up, one-on-one, shut down. When you got to come up and be in a positional player, when you have to play your position, and you got to play your edge, and you got to help in the run game. He's not there. He wasn't there today, and neither was Jones, and neither was Jackson, neither was both McCourties. Okay, they were terrible in their run help. And I'll tell you what, I get back to Gilmore. You can't cover Kittle. I know Kittle's old world. I get it. But Gilmore should be able to cover that man one-on-one, period. Kittle should not come out of his break on an out. No tight end in this league should come out of an out route, a deep out, against a corner, a quality number one corner in this league, and be 2 steps beating him on and out. That should never, ever happen. To me, that says it's done. We're done with Gilmore now, too.
Yeah. No, I agree. Gilmore. Listen, you brought up Gilmore week 1 against Miami. Week 1. You said he played terrible. And everybody was singing his praises week 1. Well, he was terrible in week 1. He's had a couple of decent games here or there. But for the amount of money you're paying him, the fact that he's supposed to be all world and supposed to be everything that everyone claims he is, you're absolutely right, Chris. You got to put him on the block. He's got to be shopped and get what you can get for him, because you're never signing him to an extension. So next year will be the last year of his contract. You might as well bump him now, right?
Yeah, and I wish we had stats on missed tackles too.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you something, Chris. One play, I forget who. If it was a bubble screen, the running back is running up the field, or it might have been a wide receiver screen. Might have been to Samuel, and he saw the runner coming up the sideline. The fullback is there leading the way. Gilmore turns his back to the play and is running the other way. And then when you see the replay, the fullback is laughing at him. The fullback is laughing.
And everybody,
Gilmore.
Mark meant to say fullback, nothing more.
I meant to say fullback. That's
nothing
more.
Fullback.
Fullback. Hey, that's my first slip-up all season. He's laughing. How is that possible? The fullback is laughing at Gilmore. You can see it on the replay.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes you don't get to just cover. Sometimes you don't just get to cover guys in the passing game. Sometimes the other quarterback's going to only throw the ball, have 20, 25 attempts, and you're going to have to actually come up and you're going to actually have to play tough run defense as a secondary player and as a defensive back. And you have to be up to that challenge. Over the years, we've seen guys do it. We've seen Ty Law do it. We saw Revis do it for other teams. We saw guys like Woodson do it. Ramsey do it. Guys will do it. They come up, they get dirty, they hit guys in the backfield, they take those bubbles and blow them up. Okay? Gilmore was timid and weak.
Chris, Baltimore's going to come in here and rush for 300 yards.
Easily.
You do understand that they're going to rush.
That's right. This team rushed for 200 yards with Jeff Wilson Jr.
They're going to rush for 300 yards. But listen, but I do want to get back to the edges. The edges were terrible. Winovich didn't have a good game at all either. The edges were terrible. The whole defense was terrible. He had
a bad penalty too.
Yeah, the whole defense was terrible. The defensive line was terrible. Everybody was terrible. And Chris, it was just a poor performance. And the guys that you mentioned Cowart, you mentioned Simon, Jennings. Okay, Jennings they drafted this year. He's a rookie. I think that kid will be all right. He's learning. But some of those guys you mentioned, Chris, undrafted free agents. Guys you picked up, Simon, the team he was on, he was a practice squad, special teams player. They didn't even want him. These are guys you're plugging in. That's the lack of talent you have. You're expecting these guys to perform at a level that they're just not capable of performing at. Cowart is an undrafted free agent. Every once in a while you hit on one of those guys. Or like you said, Chris, you could plug a Cowart in if he was surrounded by all pros in the other positions around him. That's not the case anymore. You're expecting this guy to actually perform at a certain level. He's just a plug-in guy. But we're expecting plug-in guys now without the talent around them to do things that they're not capable of doing because we have no talent around them. It's disgusting.
And guys like Wise. Did Wise play today?
Yeah, he played. He didn't do anything, but he played. They kept running by him. They kept running by him on the outside.
Wise doesn't even show up in the stat column, Mark.
Well, he's supposed to. Isn't he supposed to seal the edge?
He's an edge guy.
Yeah, okay.
Derek Rivers.
Did Rivers play today? I don't know.
He's an edge guy.
Did he?
Yeah, he had one tackle.
Oh yeah, he's an edge guy. Another edge
he had one,
guy.
not a solo tackle. He had one tackle. He got in on one tackle.
Winovich an edge guy? Did Winovich get in on any tackles? How many tackles did he make today? Winovich.
I don't see Winovich in the stat column.
So think about that, Chris. We just named 3 edge guys, 2 tackles, 3 of them. And that's all they did was go to the edge. So that alone, that stat you just told us tells you how poorly that defense played today.
And I could tell you this. The leading tackler on this team today, you know who it was?
No.
Devin McCourty.
Who?
6 solo tackles. Devin McCourty.
That's because he was making tackles 20 yards downfield.
When your safety, who's 15 yards starting, 15 yards off,
Yeah.
okay, is making 6 solo tackles. And by the way, he played poorly too. He whiffed on quite a few of them. But when you're starting safety, free safety is making 6 solo tackles, 8 tackles in total. Yeah, that's huge. That's a huge problem. You know who the second leading tackler was? Jonathan Jones. 7 solo tackles. Adrian Phillips, 6. Then you get to Bentley with 5 and Jennings with 4. Then Gilmore had 3. Those are all second. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your top 6 guys on defense today, tackling wise, were top 6 guys. 2 of them were front 7 guys. 2. The rest of them were secondary players.
Yeah, that tells you what type of a game you had, right?
Okay, so it's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting what's happened. And again, Mark, it goes back to it, and we're going to get the break right now. And coming on the other side, we're going to talk about the coaching in this team. We're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about why. Why does this team look the way they do? We're going to tell you all why we think this team looks the way they do, but we want to hear you tell us why you think this team looks the way they do. So type in, chat in, call in 855-313-PATS, 855-313-7287. More Pats Nation after this.
It's that time again for a timeout from Pats Nation for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket, or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group. Now back to Pats Nation.
Back in with more Pats Nation, Corso and Catone, and Mark. We went through the offense, talked about this game, talked about the defense, talked about the deficiencies, the issues, and listen. I'm sure Patriots fans out there, I'm sure you guys are pissed off and just sitting there saying, you know what, I guess that's the end of this season, right? The season's over with. Well, I don't know that I can't answer that question. Mark can't answer that question either. But it certainly looks like they're the kind of team. They're not better than Detroit right now. They're not any better to me than teams like Minnesota, Cincinnati. And Cincinnati even, has more hope because they have a quarterback right now. Their quarterback situation is at least settled. Are they a better team than the Jets? Yes. Okay. I mean, the Jets are a terrible team who, by the way, gave Buffalo everything they wanted today. Everything. The Jets did. They fought real hard in that game.
Your son's middle school team is better than the Jets.
Yeah. But I think we have to resign ourselves to the fact that this is not a team that's going to compete with Cincinnati. I'm sorry, with Kansas City, with Baltimore, with now Pittsburgh, Tennessee.
No,
I'm so disgusted to even say that. Chris,
you couldn't. We absolutely could not compete with those teams.
It's just not. And so the question becomes now, why? Why are we here? Why are we here? Why are we in this? Why is the New England Patriots, the 2018 Super Bowl champs, why are they in this position? And you can't just tell me, other than Brady, who threw 3 or 4 touchdowns today.
Yeah, well, let's. We'll get to him after. When we talk about the scores in the last segment, I got a couple of things I want to say. I'm going to make a little bit of an apology because I've been all over him lately. So I'm going to make a little apology.
I'll never apologize ever.
I'll never apologize. I'm gonna listen.
They're still not going to win.
Okay.
They're still not going to win a title.
You'll be telling me that in February.
They're still not going to win a title there. They will still not win a title there.
All right. Okay.
They're not even going to win that division.
Okay, guess what? When they get Antonio Brown, they're wait, Chris. It's gonna become scary.
That whole locker room is gonna implode when they get that clown.
Chris, it could become scary down there. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you, it could. It could.
And it could become scary in a way that
It could. It could. It could. But anyway,
All right,
back to the
go
Patriots.
ahead.
We'll get to that later. Back to the Patriots. So now, Chris, the talent level is terrible, right? But we've talked about the drafts. We've gone over a lot of this stuff. But right now, where this team is, you are a team that I think you're gonna have to. You may have to get even leaner. It may have to get even uglier, Chris. You may have to break this team down and start dumping salary, right? You got to dump guys like Gilmore. At the end of the season, you got to dump McCourty. You got to forget Hightower, forget Chung. You're not bringing those guys back. You need to start dumping salaries. Forget Jason McCourty. Oh, those guys need to be dumped. And if you're going to do this, then you might as well do it the right way and tear it down and build it back up with a lot of salary cap. And bringing an infusion of young guys. My only concern is we have shown absolutely no evidence that we are capable of drafting skilled players on either side of the ball, Chris. Think about it. Our last 5 drafts.
Yeah, it hasn't been good. So let's go there. Let's talk about that, because we talk about all the time the draft. We're always telling you out there what their deficiencies are, how they screwed up, what they could have had, what they should have had, what they don't have. So would you say that right now that's the number one issue as to why this team looks the way they do today, is because their inability to draft? And Mark, particularly, go through it. In particular, where in the draft? Tell these people, because I'm so disgusted and down
Chris,
with
listen,
why we're here.
Listen, we've brought this up on numerous occasions, right? You got first round picks, second round picks. We're famous for trading down in the draft, right? I understand it. But think about the second round picks that we take. Duke Dawson, gone. It started with Razai Dowling, second round pick, gone. This guy Williams from Vanderbilt, I don't necessarily know if he's any good either. Another second round pick, right? Harry, Sonny Michel. Think about this, Chris. Even Wynn. Was Wynn really a first round talent? I don't know.
He was a guard. A guard.
I don't know if he was a first round pick, Chris. I think I don't know if you waste a first round pick on a guy like that. And wasn't that the same draft Lamar Jackson was in?
Yes.
So Chris, I just don't know. I think Belichick, Chris, that draft room, I think the guys that were the smart guys that were evaluating talent and helping him work that draft room have all left. Okay. So
you're talking about guys like Pioli, Dimitrov.
Yes, those guys are gone, Chris. Those were the guys I think that organized those drafts.
Well, Mark, they've done everything they could. They've done everything they could to keep Caserio in town, and I'm wondering now. I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah.
Maybe let him go.
Maybe
let Houston take him.
Yeah, well, it's too late now. I think Houston signed somebody, but I would have. Listen, the guy got fired in Atlanta. I know he's the scapegoat because he hired that coach. I get it. But let me tell you something. Dimitrov has some talent in Atlanta that he has drafted. He's still a better draft guy than we got here now. He's better than Caserio.
Historically, you could see it.
But,
you could see it. Historically, he's brought in guys. Mark, go down the list of the guys. I mean, we're not even trying to maneuver in the draft to get guys, but guys that you could have on this team, especially knowing that you have a 40-some-odd-year-old quarterback. Look, what happened with Garoppolo, and we got to talk about that too as it relates to the draft. So let's start with that. Let's start there. Okay, let's start in that situation where you had, when Garoppolo had to go. Okay. At that point, okay, he had to go. It was a tough situation to be in. Everybody knew it. It wasn't, look, I can't fault anybody for that. You had Brady coming off an MVP season. Okay. He's coming off an MVP season. Now here comes Garoppolo getting ready to either be franchised or given a contract while he already sat behind Brady for 4 or so years. Okay. So now that was a decision that had to be done. I know, but it's documented. Belichick didn't want to do it. We know he didn't want to do it, and he wanted Garoppolo to stay in town. Okay, he leaves. So at that point, you realize at that point, Brady is what, 40 at that point, I think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that was 17, was it? 2017, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So, but you still know that within 3 years, this is over with Brady. It's going to be over. You know, this whole thing where he's going to play till 45, and yeah, maybe he will. But was he really going to be playing till 45 in New England? Something had to be done. So at that moment, you know, what's a succession plan at that point? So Garoppolo's out of town. That's it. He's gone. Now you got to start drafting. So now we come into these drafts where you have the draft with Wynn. And that was a draft with Wynn and Michelle, right?
Yeah.
Isaiah Wynn was a god in college, okay? And I think they took him at 21. I think he was the 21st pick or 22. 21 or 22, they took him. And he was a god, and they were going to convert him over to tackle. And that's great to do. That's all well and good. I think he would have been there when they picked Michelle. I really do.
No, he absolutely would have been there when they picked Michelle, positively.
And that was the Lamar Jackson draft, wasn't it? Or was it?
Yeah, but Jackson, it was. But Jackson, I believe, got drafted after Michelle.
After Michelle. So you had in that was also the Andrews draft, wasn't it?
It may have been, yeah.
So you had the opportunity in that draft, in that first round, to get Lamar Jackson, the tight end for Baltimore, Andrews.
Well, no, though, Chris, but Andrews, you could have taken it when I was screaming for them to take him in the second round, and I forget who they took in the second round of that draft. But I was screaming for them to take him in the second round of that draft, and they didn't take him because I told you this is Gronk's replacement.
Right, but just generally speaking, that's the draft when they could have had, these are the guys they could have had, and they could have still picked Wynn. So basically, you could have still taken Isaiah Wynn if you wanted in that spot. And then when you pick Michelle, you could have taken Lamar Jackson. Just even up. Just straight up. I don't know. Let me ask you, let me ask you people out there. Would you swap Lamar Jackson for Sony Michel right now? Straight up. Even out. Because if they took Lamar Jackson in that situation, they clearly don't mind. I mean, at the time we were talking about it, saying, well, are they the kind of team that would be successful with a running quarterback, with a guy that moves around? And well, clearly they don't mind because they brought Cam Newton in. So you take Lamar Jackson and Brady, fine. Yeah, whatever. Go to Tampa. Wear that putrid uniform. Have a blast. And you don't care.
I may show up on one of those jerseys next week.
That I'll shut your camera off. You like that other jerk, that does the game, the post game over there, and the weekly show. That guy, You know what I mean? I heard him for two minutes today. That guy does more backpedaling than a defensive back on Sunday. That guy, wearing that stupid, ugly, orange and creamsicle looking horrendous. Yeah. All I'm saying is their inability to draft has killed this team. Andrews, Lamar Jackson, DK Metcalf, Samuel, Claypool.
But Chris, listen,
these guys could have all been Patriots with not having to move in the draft.
Chris, listen, over the last 5 years, if you go back 5 years, the reason the draft has killed them is twofold, right? Yes, it's the lack of talent, right? Infusion of talent. But also, if you go back the last 5 years or so, the poor drafts have a direct effect also on the fact that you've had to overpay veterans to stay here longer because you didn't have the guys to move up to plug to fill in. So you had to sign McCourty to another contract that he's probably not worth because you didn't draft a good enough safety. When every draft you've been screaming for the last 3 drafts, safety.
Oh, I like the kid. I remember who's playing in Pittsburgh now.
They finally took one in this draft, but it's a little late.
And by the way, they missed him today. They missed Duggar today.
They did miss Duggar today. They did. But you finally took one in this draft, Chris, but it was a little late. I mean, he's not ready to plug in for McCourty. You should have had McCourty's replacement. You should have never had to give McCourty that kind of money to bring him back. You should have never, Hightower should have already been released because you should have already had Hightower's replacement. There are guys, Chung should have never been given another contract at that salary. You should have had a replacement for Chung. But our drafts are so poor. You're overpaying.
Mark, the guy that they took, Fred Warner, you had him on your board. That's a guy that could have been playing in New England too.
But Chris,
that number 54 for San Fran today. Everybody watched him today.
Chris,
did you see him all over the field? He could have been playing in New England.
Chris,
liked him too.
But Chris, the thing is, not only that, that would have also compounded with salary cap. You would have saved all that salary cap money, and you could have brought in an infusion of offensive weapons, because where you're spending money, you should have had young players. You should have had young players in place.
Don't throw the equipment around, Mark. Joe's going to be screaming. Our producer, Joe Guarnieri, is going to be screaming at us right now.
Listen,
guys, stop swearing, stop throwing equipment around,
Listen, it's one of those weeks, Chris. I'm starting to get a little too excited now. But, the infusion.
Mark, Fred Warner. Wait a minute. Fred Warner. Because you remember, I know you remember him because we had him on our board. He went in the third round. That was the linebacker out of BYU that we loved. He went in 2018. He went in the third. I'll never forget. He went in the third round, and I think it was the 70th pick in 18, third round. I mean, these are guys that I don't understand. I just don't understand who's looking at this, who's evaluating in that room.
I don't know, Chris. I've lost all sense of what their draft board is, what they do. I don't know what they do anymore. Draft day, I don't know what they do. The guys that they come up with this year's draft, Chris, you took 2 tight ends in the third round. Stiffs. I shouldn't say they're stiffs, but that's your most neediest position besides wide receiver. No one's seen the field. Was Uche in the second round, Chris? Did they move up to take him?
Yeah, Uche was.
Or was he a high third round pick too?
Third round pick, because they only had the one. I thought that they took.
So think about it. You took 3 guys in the third round. Mm-hmm. None of them have seen. The tight ends are irrelevant, and one of them hasn't seen the field. How do you do that? So other teams are taking. If they had 3 for third round picks, 2 of them are probably already on the field playing like superstars. We can't get anybody to contribute. You cannot do that, and that's why we're in the position we're in now. And you got to blame Belichick. It's his draft room. The drafts are terrible. His evaluation of talent the last several years it's been poor, really, really poor. And maybe he shouldn't be the GM. Maybe somebody else should be organizing the draft and say, hey, listen, you just coach. You know what? You can't shop for the groceries anymore. You lost that ability because you've blown the last 5 drafts. If you don't like it, you can take a walk, you can retire, and we'll turn the keys over to McDaniels. But guess what? We're also going to bring in a draft team to draft guys. McDaniels ain't drafting either because we need talent on this team. Maybe we're at that point, Chris. Maybe it's time to make that decision. I mean,
I don't know. I'm not willing to say that Belichick's done or he should be done or anything.
I'm not saying he's done as a coach, Chris. I think we have enough evidence to show that he should be done organizing a draft.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Build a coach can't be touched.
He can't be touched. He can't be touched.
Build the GM.
Yes.
Is a real problem.
That's a problem. That's a problem right now. Yes.
For all the things we just said, and guys, and look, two fools like us. Okay, we're sitting over here with our draft board and our, doing this stuff. We see this. Now, if we're seeing this, what do we know? I mean, what guys that we're listing out, even like I said, Claypool. There's another guy I loved in the draft. And these aren't guys they needed to move around a lot to get versus Keene. Okay, you want to take Keene. Okay, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. And not only that, but the decision to redshirt them and protect them, I'm not really sure why they're doing that. I don't understand. They never see the damn field. Uche's not going to, I don't know, all the speed he's got, all the speed. Going to use that speed on the edge, defending the edge today, I think. Because it was terrible. It was terrible. By the way, they're watching that. I'm looking at that replay of the Edelman. Yeah, the only emotion I saw at Edelman in 2 weeks, was Cam Newton threw the ball to Edelman. And by the way, I put that on Edelman. That interception that Newton threw to Edelman, that he tipped off Edelman's hands, it looked like the throw was behind them, and then it went into the Frisco's the arms of the Frisco player, and then Edelman came off and slammed his helmet on the ground like that. We told you last week that we've seen no good body language out of him.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll tell you, I'll take a helmet slam. I'll take anything.
Oh,
I said last
absolutely.
week. Some sort of emotion out of that stiff right now, because that's all he's been, is a friggin' stiff. And I don't know if it's his knee. I'm not really interested in what it is. If you're going to step foot on the field, be Julian Edelman that we know to be. Okay. Not because your boyfriend is gone. I don't care. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. All right. But I put that interception on him because on the route, if you watch it, if you go back and watch that replay, and I know what we're getting off what we're talking about, but if you watch that friggin' replay, okay, Edelman sits down in the zone, Cam Newton steps to, and he's got Cam Newton has such a long, extended, takes forever to get the ball out, okay? He winds up to throw him that ball, and at the last second, he decides to move inside, to continue going inside. So naturally, he throws the ball. It looks like he threw behind him. Tips it off his hands. It goes into the – that's on Edelman, man. If you're going to sit down in the zone and the quarterback sees you in that spot, where are you going now? You're going to move now to the inside? You're going to continue that route? You've already committed to that spot. You've already sat down in that zone, and now all of a sudden you move. And, of course, you move, and now the ball's over here. I saw the replay, and I had to bring it up because, again, Edelman's another one. The body language, he's done. He's done as a New England Patriot. He's done. You want to go to Tampa, okay? But you're done as a New England Patriot. Your body language shows all of that. If you're hurt, you're hurt. Then sit down and stay there if you're hurt, because you're not doing anybody any good getting on this field right now. He can't get open. Mark Warner was covering him all day. When the hell has that happened?
Imagine a linebacker's covering Edelman. Imagine that.
And any on those routes, those in-out routes, those in and out routes, those slant to out routes, where he stops and goes and leaves linebackers, it breaks their ankles when he does that. That guy Warner was with him all day today. So yeah, Mark, you're right. The fusion of talent just isn't there on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. And now the big question at quarterback, where the hell do we go from there? Where do we go from there, Mark?
Well, if it's not Newton, and I'm not saying it's not Newton yet. I think it's a little early. We've got, we still got a whole, good, 10 games. What are we, 2-4 now? We got 10 games to go. So we're going to see. I'm not saying it's not Newton yet. But
tank for Trevor, right? Is that what you're going to?
Yeah, tank for Trevor, yeah.
Because there are people, Mark, there are people out there they feel like, hey, you know what? We just getting the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Do you still feel that guy's going to be a player in this league?
Of course he is. The kid. Well, listen, I'll tell you what. You go to the New York Jets, I don't think anybody wins there. They're such a bad organization. But I will tell you this. I have a funny feeling that kid will be like a Peyton Manning, and he'll say, listen, don't draft me, because if you draft me, I'm not playing for you, so don't draft me. Trade me, do something. I will not play for you. The kid may do it, or the kid may go back to school. He may say, you know what, I'm not playing for the New York Jets. So,
well, listen,
and I'm going to tell you something, Chris. If you end up if you tank and you end up in the top 5 of the draft, I don't see why you can't trade for him. If the kid says, listen, I ain't playing for you, New York, so don't take me. And New England wants to step in and take him, he'll come play with us.
Well, that gets us.
But I'll tell you what, Chris, I would even trade for Donald. If they're taking Lawrence, the Jets, and Lawrence is willing to go there, I still think that kid Donald can be a real good NFL quarterback. I just think that they're so bad that,
if they haven't destroyed him yet.
If they haven't destroyed him yet, yep.
If they haven't destroyed him yet. And listen,
by the way, you know who looked pretty good for them today? It's his first game back from injury. He hasn't played all season. The wide receiver I told you I wanted, Mims.
Yeah. Yep. Well, again, that's going to bring us to the other side of the break where we're going to talk about now what are we going to do moving forward with this trade deadlines coming up now. There's been a lot of talk this past week about are you buyers, are you sellers? Coming into this game, we thought
fire sale.
Well, coming into this game, we thought one way. And now after this game, I want to know what you think, Mark. I want to know what you people think out there. And we also got to get to our Brady Belichick segment, and that's going to be sponsored by Studio 42 Graphic Design. All of that on the other side, more Pats Nation after this.
How do I get to the point where I understand my passion enough to communicate it outward and dial myself in so that I can craft my own sauce. But you don't have anyone that's going to give you the right advice. Now you do. We've been discussing where we live and what areas do we want to always talk about. And really, it's startup, it's finance, and drive. We are Special Sauce Podcast.
Back in with more Pats Nation, Corso and Catone, and Mark on the front side of this. We're talking about their draft, the inability to draft. Why is this team look the way they do? Why are they in the situation they're in? And I think it's clear from the things that we talked about. So now the question becomes, what do they do moving forward? So you have the trade deadline coming up on November 3rd, D-Day. In a lot of ways in this country. But one of the things that's coming up on November 3rd is the trade deadline for the NFL. Coming into this game, I thought you got to buy. You're a buyer if you're the New England Patriots. We were willing to apologize for last week, saying that, hey, look, you practice twice in a week, in 2 weeks. Cam Newton doesn't play in 21 days. And so on and so forth and all of that. We should be looking for a good receiver. We should be looking for a tight end to trade for. You dropped this game 33-6, Mark, looking pitiful doing it on offense. 56 yards total offense in the first half. So now I ask you, we reset after this game. Where are we in this? Are we buying or are we selling? And if so, why and who?
Well, I'm selling. There's no question about. Well, let me say this: I'm selling, but I let's see what they look like next week at Buffalo. Okay, if they get the doors blown off them, well, then the trade deadline's in 2 days. I think you got to be. I think Gilmore, Chris, I think is on the block no matter what. I agree with you. I don't care if you win. I don't care if you beat Buffalo by 5 touchdowns next week. Gilmore should be on the block. If Gilmore can fetch you a number one receiver, I think for the future, you have to make the deal.
Well, I think, listen, I think regardless
if you get a disgruntled wide team with a disgruntled wide receiver who's a 1 or a 2, I think you have to trade Gilmore to bring a guy in like that. Even if it's not for this year, even if it's for the next 2 or 3 years, to help you build for the future, you'd have to make that deal, Chris.
Well, it depends on what you're doing. Now, if you're trading for player, okay, but typically you're going to trade for picks. Typically,
but
draft capital.
you could put him in a package for a player.
You could. So if you like the draft, if you like the wide receiver draft next year, or saying, hey, look, we get a pick for him and a player. The problem with Gilmore is he's got a high number. He's going to have a high number, and he's going to be 30, 31 by the time his contract is up.
Yeah.
Which is he's got this year, he's got next year, and then it's over, right?
Yep.
So I think we both agree. The reason why I say Gilmore, you put Gilmore out there, and I think, listen, the reports were that I heard Bert Breer this morning from the MMQB talk about the fact that they dangled Gilmore out there in the offseason to teams, and I just don't think that there was enough being offered back at this point, though. His obviously this is it with him, because if he gets into next season, you're not going to trade him next season because people will just wait. They'll just wait till he becomes a free agent. You're certainly not going to franchise him for the number that the franchise tag you would need to be able to do that. So this is it. If you don't trade him now, then you're stuck. You're living with him. And to me, I don't care who it is. I said this about Revis at the time, if you remember, when it came time to decide, do we going to pay him? Let the Jets go get him. The Jets took him and gave him a ton of money, a ridiculous, stupid money. Okay. I told you then, no, I don't care how good the player is. Once you hit 30 as a corner, that's it. You got a couple of years left at a high level and you're done. So to me, and look, you're not going to get anything. If somebody gave you a second round pick for him right now, yeah, you have to take that. If somebody if there's a team out there that's dumb enough to put a first round, you're not going to get a first round pick for Gilmore. You're just not going to get that. So those of you, I've heard that, get a first round pick for Gilmore, you're just not paying attention. the GMs that are on the league, they're not stupid. I mean, they're not just going to give you a first round pick for Gilmore when they know his deal's coming up without any type of extension. And then when you extend them, what are you getting? You're getting a corner for 31 to 34 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, that just doesn't work in this league. So it's, to me, they're selling on Gilmore for sure, just because of the circumstance that Gilmore is in. That you're not going to re-sign him. You're not going to give him a big deal. He's going to want a big deal. So I think you need to trade him. And I think you need to trade him for a second round pick, third round pick, maybe what you say, a player. They're not going to get they're not going to get a great player. Now, I say that, and I look at what's going on in New Orleans right now, okay, with Michael Thomas. So it came out that they're willing to listen to offers on Michael Thomas. Now,
the coach came out and said that's total BS.
Yeah. You know what though? When there's smoke, there's fire. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. Look, he's not that. I don't think he's as hurt as they're claiming that he is. I think he could be on the field. I think if there was harmony there, I think he would be on the field right now. And they had some players play for them today that play pretty well at the receiver position.
And I don't think Sanders played today because
Sanders didn't play. Sanders didn't play either. But when they get Sanders back, they had a couple of guys step up today that I think is going to make them more willing to listen to offers. So now I don't agree with what. Of course, he's going to say that. Peyton. What else is he going to say? I mean, he's going to have to come out and say, no. There's no truth to that. There's no truth to that. Everything's happy and fine here. No, the bottom line is he punched somebody in the face over there. They disciplined him. They said he's fine, but they're listening to offers now. I'm in the sell market now. I'm not waiting for the Bills next week. I see what I see, and I've seen enough football to understand what I'm seeing right now. And I know that the New England Patriots are well, it depends on what you want. Are you happy just making the playoffs? I mean, I'm not. That's not what we're built to do. That's not what this organization built their fan base such that the expectation is championships, not playoff appearances. That's the expectation they wanted. That's the expectation that Bob Kraft wanted, Jonathan Kraft wanted, and the rest of the Kraft family. They want their fan base to look at this team to build for championships. So in that sense, they're not winning a championship this season. So to me, you have to sell. And I agree with you. In the offseason, Hightower, Chung, clear it. So I think you're selling. But in this instance, with Thomas, I think you should be in the buyer's market for that, not for just this season, but for the long term with this guy. Because I think if you can get this guy in, okay, work a deal with him, get him extended, do whatever's needed to be done with the idea that, hey, look, this season's crap. This season's garbage now. We're going, it's in the tank now. The only problem with doing that is you haven't figured out, the quarterback situation isn't figured out. Now, I don't know if he has a no trade clause or anything like that, but if he doesn't, he doesn't really have a choice. And I don't know what his contract looks like down there. I have no idea. But the bottom line is you don't have your quarterback settled yet. But Mark, look at what it would do. How much cap space does New England have next year?
They're going to have close to $100 million in cap space. And if you clear the books, Chris, of guys like McCourty and not McCourty, Hightower and Chung, and maybe even McCourty, you could have 120, 130. You're going to probably have one of the highest cap numbers in the league for money to spend next year.
Now the cap's going down.
It's going down, but
it's going to go down for the first time.
We're still going to be the highest team, I think, in regards to cap money to spend.
Well, one of them, yeah.
One of the top five.
And so to me, if you bring, because let's look at, I don't know, what do you think of Michael Thomas? Top 2-3 receiver in the league in
Absolutely.
my book.
Without question.
He can do it all. He can make every catch. He can get down the field. He can stretch the defense. He can beat cover two.
Yeah.
He could catch back shoulder. He could do it in the end zone. He can go up in high point balls. He can do it all. That guy. Okay. So if you're able to get a guy like that in right now, even knowing that the season isn't going to be, I think you need to do that. Otherwise, before this game, I was in on different guys. I was in on Tate. I was in on Fuller and Stills and Cooks and these guys coming in to try to salvage this season to get guys in. But Mark, it's not. There's no way at this point. I mean, you look at this team. So you bring a guy like Fuller in, okay, from Houston, and after Houston,
he's not going to do anything for you at this point.
What's that going to do for you?
Nothing, because the rest of your receivers still stink.
So again, you two are in the same boat then.
I'm going to sell his market.
Okay, and so now, what on this team do you sell?
Well, we already mentioned Gilmore. I don't think anybody would take him. So I think a guy like McCourty, both McCourties, I think at the end of the season, you cut ties with both of them. I think Devin, I think you're going to have to cut ties with him. You may have to bring in another safety, draft another safety. I don't know. I can't see giving him another $10 million for a second season. I think they signed him 2 years. Was it 2 years, $20 million extension, Chris? Something like that. You can't give him another $10 million next year. That's insanity. You have to release him. You got to get rid of clear Hightower off the books. You got to clear Chung off the books. These guys got to come off the books. I mean, you're going to get Gilmore off the books. If you bring a guy, but depending on what you get for Gilmore, if you don't get a player in return, but you get a pick, well, you're going to be clearing a ton of money, even more money off your cap. You know, I think you have to do it. I mean, what are you going to do? You got to sell if you're going to build. Then you got to get rid of You got to get rid of more cap space too. Sell. Maybe you accumulate draft picks. The only problem with that is your drafts have been terrible.
Well, and that's the problem. See, and that's the thing. So if you, and then, you know, that's if you sell and what you're getting for it, because again, it's, and you don't have your quarterback settled. And listen, coming into next year's draft, they don't have the kind of capital. You know, they lost that 3rd round pick. They lost the 3rd round pick over this, the taping, the scandal in the.
So that's why, Chris, I think if you're in a seller's market, you can recoup some of those picks, right? You know.
But I think it's got to start with Gilmore. I think it's got to start with Gilmore.
It does.
And unless you can bring a receiver in that you know is going to be with you and stick for the next 2-3 years, somebody take the top off. Because look, regardless of what you or a tight end. Now look, Ertz is a guy that you could trade for.
Weeks, but
yeah,
maybe
okay, but what do we care?
You trade for him for the future, yeah. You trade for the future.
What the hell does New England care that Ertz is going to be
for the future? No, you're right. You trade for the future.
You know, now what does he have left? You know, how's he going to come back from that injury? Because I'll tell you what, the tight end position is again, it's right now it's atrocious, and it's absolutely criminal to me.
Chris, at this point, my next door neighbor, he's 80 years old. He goes to Naples 7 months a year. I could get him out there, and he'll give me more than what these stiffs are giving me, for crying out loud. He hasn't played football in 40, 50, 60 years.
Yeah. So there it is. So we want to get Mock's neighbor in, okay?
Yeah.
To run the ball, catch the ball a little bit. But we got to figure. But the New England Patriots, Mark, have got to figure out who the hell is playing quarterback for them next year. Because at this point, maybe it's an overreaction, but I don't know if it could be Cam Newton.
I was just going to say, at this point, you'll say, but I'm going to tell you something, Chris. If this continues, who's going to even spend? Who would even bring Newton in? As it was, nobody wanted to bring him in.
Well, that comes to that point now. You know, what happens to Newton? Is he done? Is he?
Who's going to bring if they fall on their face the rest of the season? No, who's bringing him in?
He didn't look good, Mark. He didn't look good today.
No.
He looked slow. He didn't throw the ball
in Belichick's press conference, he was asked about it, and he said he's absolutely our starting quarterback.
Yeah, they said, "Are you going to stick with Cam Newton?" He said, "Absolutely, yeah." Are you going to stay with Newton?
What's your alternative? We already saw Hoyer. What the hell? We saw what Hoyer.
Well, Stidham throws an interception every time he's on the field.
Stidham wets his pants every time he's out there. He throws an interception.
I don't know, Mark. Listen, but moving forward, okay, you're not going to win a championship this year. It's clear. But moving forward, okay, is Cam Newton the guy? I mean, I guess it depends on where you're drafting too, and what you have out there and what you want to bring in. And there's another guy. We want to get to the Brady Belichick segment. We have to every week. I know, and because I want to get to this segment for no other reason that to hear Mark apologize to everybody. But Mark, the guy I want everybody to pay attention to and listen to this name is Mertz.
Yeah, the kid from Wisconsin. Yeah, he looked good.
Mark, from what I understand and watching that kid, he can make every single throw.
Is he eligible? Will he be in the draft next year?
If he has any brains, he will.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well,
But that being said, let's get to the Brady Belichick segment. And this is going to be sponsored by Studio 42 Graphic Design. And that's in North Providence, Rhode Island. Contact the people over at Studio 42 Graphic Design. They do great work. They've done great work with our logo and other things for us and for the show. But Mark, Brady versus Belichick. So, okay, obviously, just for argument's sake, let me, well, first give you your apology, and then while I'm getting Brady's numbers today.
I'm going to bow to the GOAT. I'm going to bow to the GOAT. I'm bowing to the GOAT.
Yeah.
Chris, he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. I watched it. I was watching bits and
Can't
pieces.
root for him.
Chris, listen, I can't root for him, but listen, I watched that game today, Chris. Who are we fooling? We've been fooling ourselves. We're New England Patriot fans. Did you really think he was going to go down there and make a fool of himself? Come on. Of course he wasn't. He's the GOAT. For crying out loud.
33 of 45, 369 yards, 4 touchdowns today. 33 of 40. And Mark's throwing his equipment around again. 33 of 45, 369 yards, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, he looked awfully good.
And the other guy, they got him to drink from the fountain of youth down there. Gronk's drinking from the fountain of youth now again down there. I don't know what he's doing. The CBC oil, whatever he's doing down there.
He had a few catches today and another touchdown today. His numbers, he had 5 receptions, 62 yards, 1 touchdown off 8 attempts. So, you know, he missed 3, but he had a pretty good day. Scotty Miller, who is the new Edelman.
Yeah, he's turning into Edelman.
You know, he had 6 receptions off 9 targets for 35 yards and a touchdown. But Mark, here's the thing. Here's what I want to say. Okay. First of all, with Tampa Bay, and look, yes, Brady won the week. He won the week. Okay. And right now he's got the edge on the season so far now because of everything we're seeing going on in the New England. Belichick is
Chris
having a tough go over here.
Chris, listen.
Yeah.
What week is this? Week what?
7.
Week 7. If that cuckoo clock can go down there and keep his head straight, they're gonna go to the Super Bowl. I just said it. Chris, I've seen enough of the league so far this year. If he comes in and plays, they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
There's 2 points I want to make on that. First is this. I know that the contract is incentive laden. So I know that Brown's contract, for those of you who don't know, Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers signed Antonio Brown to a 1-year deal. It's mainly incentive based. Now, I don't know what that means. Some of it's player incentives and some of it's team-based incentives based on wins. The bottom line, though, is to get his money, he's going to need to get the ball, okay? Now, keep in mind, 2 months ago, Arians, who I think we all agree is not running that team anymore. He has nothing to do with what's going on in that team anymore. Do we agree on that?
Yep.
Okay. Arians said 2 months ago he's not a fit in this locker room. He's not a fit in this. Now, we know Brady wants him. I mean, Brady wanted him in New England. He wanted him, and he wants him there. Brady wants this guy. So he's not a fit in this locker room. Well, now, you know, they said, well, would you reconsider that if by the time he's able to play, you know, the injuries and such on your team? He said, well, I guess we'd have to look at that. But right now, he's not a fit in this locker room. Well, here we are now. It's clear that Brady is running that ship. That's his team. Whatever Brady wants, Brady gets. The guy that I think is going to end up real disgruntled over this, okay, and I think he's already getting disgruntled, who had 2 catches today off 2 targets. 2 targets, 22 yards, is Mike Evans. Okay, now they're winning games right now, Mark, and they're winning, and they're going to make the playoffs and all of that. But these guys, all these guys' contracts, everything's tied to their performance. Now you're going to bring Antonio Brown in there, who's going to take more catches away from Evans. He's not going to gain more for him. It's going to take more away from him because he's down. You know, Antonio Brown's a ridiculous talent. If he comes back strong, he can make it. He can run every route. He can catch every ball, but he's going to take catches away from Evans again. So, because you got Godwin today, who had 9 receptions off 9 attempts. Scotty Miller, who's the Edelman. You got Gronk catching 5 balls. Fournette catch 6 Fournette caught 6 as White would catch 6 out of the backfield here, and then you got Everett.
Maybe Mr. Kraft calls Brady, says, "Listen, trade us Mike Evans."
And that's who he'd have to call is Brady, not
Of
Matt
course he
Arians.
would.
He'd
Not
have to call Brady.
Arians. Not Arians.
No, listen. Hey, listen. I defer to him. He is the GOAT. He's the man. But the last thing I'm going to say on this, he's also clearly a guy who could care less about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise.
Chris, listen.
That listen, mate. Wait, Mark. That Tom Brady. If this shows you nothing else, needing Antonio Brown, needing Fournette, needing to have McCoy come in, needing to have Gronk come in at $9 million. By the way, he still hasn't given you enough for $9 million. But having Gronk come in at $9 million, if this tells you nothing else, it should tell you this: Tom Brady could care less about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their future as a franchise. He does not care. He cares about today. He cares about today and tomorrow being next year. After that, he doesn't care what happens to your franchise. So for all you people who think that he's the second coming and he's such a wonderful, that are embracing him with open arms, see me in 3 years. See me, not this season, next season, the season after that, and see where your franchise is, because they are going to be in purgatory based on what this dude's doing over there. And God forbid they don't bring a ring there. They don't win a ring. Because to me, bringing all these guys in, you either get a ring or you failed in my book. And it's going to cost Arians his job. Mark my words, because I don't care what he's doing right now. This team is not going to win the Super Bowl. They're not going to beat Seattle. And I know what they did to Green Bay last week. I understand, but they're not going to go to Lambeau and do it. I don't even think they're going to win this division. And I think Antonio Brown, it's inevitable what Antonio Brown's going to be. Mark, he came to the New England Patriots, the team that can control everybody, the team that can get everybody under control. And he came in with Tom Brady, and they could not get this guy to behave. What the hell makes you think that he's going to go to the country club down there with Arians and he's going to behave himself? He's going to stay off his phone. Are you kidding me? It never happened. It's never going to happen. But I'll defer to Brady right now that he's winning the season battle right now between he and Belichick, because Belichick has got a lot of problems. He's got a lot of problems. So Brady Belichick sponsored. That was sponsored by Studio 42 Graphic Design. So Mark, before we get to our last break and come back with our final thoughts, looking ahead now to next week. And it doesn't get easier, does it? Because now you have the Buffalo Bills, where you go on the road to take on the Bills. And remind me, Mark, are they having fans? Are they allowing fans over there in Buffalo?
I don't remember. Did they have a small group of fans last week, that Monday night game they played?
They may have. They may have.
Against Kansas City, they may have had a small group of fans, I think.
But the Buffalo Bills, who today won 18-10 over the Jets. And listen, they didn't look...
Listen, I don't think Buffalo's all that good. I think Buffalo is, they won some games early. Everybody said, the Buffalo Bills. Listen, Buffalo could have lost today. That game, they kicked 6 field goals. If the Jets had any type of a team, they would have won that game. They had every opportunity to win the game. I just think we have so many issues, Chris. I just don't know if you can go in there and win the game just because of our issues. Not because I think Buffalo's anything great. I think Buffalo's a beatable team. I just think we have so many problems on both sides of the ball. I just don't know if you can go in there and beat them, fans or no fans. But again, it's not because I think Buffalo's that good. I just think we have so many glaring holes in I don't know, Chris. I don't know.
Well, listen, I think offensive, Josh Allen today was 30-43 for 300 yards, no touchdowns. So, he threw the ball 43 times today, and they didn't put the ball in the end zone.
No.
They didn't put the ball
against a team that hasn't won a game.
Yeah, again, are they beatable? Yeah, but, they also rushed for 126 yards, okay? And that includes a negative 11 by McKenzie. But they got Singletary over there running the ball. Are they going to be able to get to the edge? Because this team showed today, if Buffalo's watching this game today, they're going to try to get Singletary to the edge. They're going to try to bubble them out.
Well, the one thing next week, Chris, the one problem we're going to have next week is the strength of Buffalo's team is their defense. So we're going to have a problem because offensively we're putrid. So
that's the side of the ball that we're going to have. That to me is going to be the biggest problem, because what are you doing to fix the offense?
And Buffalo's strength is their defense.
Right.
So
what can New England do?
We got a problem.
What can New England do to fix the issues they're having on offense against the Buffalo Bills next week.
You can't fix anything. Oh, by the way, they just on the ticker, Tampa Bay just brought in Josh Gordon.
Yeah. You know what? And you know what? They might as well at this point. Like I said, what the hell does Brady care about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their franchise? He doesn't care. He doesn't care if that team sucks for the next 10 years after he's gone, after he's out of town. So all you Tampa Bay fans, love it for the next year and a half.
Could you imagine
you're going to be in purgatory for the next 5.
Could you imagine the lunacy with Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon? Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, that it would be interesting if nothing else. So yeah, listen, Mark, with the game next week, and it's a 1:00 kickoff, 1:00 Eastern time. Will we come on 30 minutes following that game? Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to be some things that improve. They're going to have to try to run the ball. They're going to have to try to run the ball with more efficiency. They're going to have to control the clock. Look, if you have any chance to win that game, any chance at all to win that game, they're going to have to try to control the clock. They're going to have to not rely on Newton to get the ball down the field to nobody, because we just don't have anybody that's going to be able to get. And they have good corners there. They've got Norman.
We're in a lot of trouble because of defense. They
got Norman. They got White. They got guys that can shut people down. There's no, I can't see how Cam Newton's going to be able to throw the ball next week.
And they got a good defensive front too, Chris.
They do. And if you have any chance at all, it's going to have to be running the ball, and Newton's just going to have to get a lot better. So on the other side, want to get the break, and on the other side, give our final thoughts, and also some people to thank. More Pats Nation right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout from Pats Nation for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket, or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group. Now back to Pats Nation.
Back in with more Pats Nation. Patriots dropped this game 33-6 to the San Francisco 49ers. In this atrociously performed game by the offense and by the defense. Mark, your final thoughts on this game?
It was terrible, Chris. It was absolutely terrible. We haven't seen a Patriot performance like this in a long time. Maybe that game way back when in Kansas City when we went in there on a Monday night and we got our doors blown off and everyone said, the dynasty's over. Who was it? Was it Trent Dilfer? Remember they made that famous comment, "It's over, the dynasty's over." And we use that as motivation to fuel us for the rest of the season. Unfortunately, this isn't that team, and I think it's going to be a long season, and I think this is the beginning of the mindset where you're going to have to begin the rebuilding process. Unless something really strange happens, I just don't see this team turning it around, Chris.
There's no more on to Cincinnati.
No,
this is not an on to Cincinnati situation. It feels different because it is different. For this particular game, there wasn't much done well. You can't talk about practice. You can't talk about the fact that your inability to not practice. You had a full week. You had a game plan week. And I don't necessarily fault. We didn't talk too much about coaching today, but looking at the play call and looking at McDaniels at this point, looking at what I saw today, I'm not sure I can put it on him at this point because I'm not sure what he can do right now. But looking at the way they were today, they weren't able to run the ball really effectively. I mean, they did in the second half of the game when it became garbage time. They got Harris ran well. I think that Cam Newton looks a little slow. His throwing motion is always an unorthodox throwing motion, but the ball's coming out real slow. It's not accurate. All the things that we thought could be a creep up as a problem for Cam Newton when his confidence starts to waver. And that always happens when he starts throwing picks. And he threw them today again. And he's trending on the side of that than what we saw in week 2 against Seattle. It was a poor performance all around. And defensively, Mark, again, this bend but don't break mentality is it's a recipe for doom based on the type of offense that you have now. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you whether or not you're allowing 18 points on all field goals or you're allowing 33 points on touchdowns, if you can't make teams punt, you're not going to win.
No,
Period.
No,
That's
you're right.
it. So, Mark,
Because defensively, you're right. Defensively, it's disgusting what we've been seeing. Disgusting. And I agree with you on offense. Can you blame McDaniels? Can you blame play calling? I mean, what do you got? What's he got to work with? You got nothing to work with. I mean,
no.
No.
And again, so again, there's a lot to fix, a lot to do. I told you at the beginning of the show, I led with saying I think the dynasty is dead. I hate saying it because I don't want to believe that and feel that. But Mark, there's at some point they're going to have to turn the page and move on to something else. And the problem is, and the scary part is for Patriots fans out there, I'm not sure what that plan is at the quarterback position, the most important position in all of sports. And also, Mark, and next week we're going to talk about the Patriots All Dynasty team. That list came out this week, and we're going to talk about that because there's some things you have a problem with that, and some of the things on the list. And I read the names on this list, and I look at it and say, "Geez, God, would it be nice to have some of those guys back again?"
What,
right?
Chris, we're having this conversation today. You led off with the dynasty's over, and when that list came out, what day was it? Was it Thursday? I forget. The first thing I told Chris, I called him up and said, "Chris, you're coming out with an all dynasty team. What does that mean? It's over."
It means it's over.
It means it's over. And lo and behold, here we go today with our worst performance. And you know what? I guess it is over.
33-6. There is no on to Cincinnati. It is on to Buffalo, who they take on next week at 1 p.m. Eastern. We will be on directly following that, 30 minutes following the game. Some people to thank, Mark. Want to thank the people over at Special Sauce Podcast. There's a lot of Patriots that are going to be needing their services, I think. Maybe right after that trade deadline or at the end of the season, Hightower Chung and Company, if Mark has his way. Want to thank the people over at Jag Media Productions, Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal firm. Allow us to be your voice. Studio 42 Graphic Design in Rhode Island. Also want to thank the people at Mountain View Home Watch and Security, Scottsdale's leading private home and security firm. Also want to thank Joe Guarneri, our longtime producer and director. Joe, as always, thank you. We appreciate all the work you're doing. And even though you're always yelling out air and Mark's throwing equipment all over the place, even with our antics and our stupidity, Joe seems to keep it all under control. So we thank Joe for that. Again, 33-6, the Patriots drop to the San Francisco 49ers in an ugly loss. Again, next week they take on the Buffalo Bills where they go on the road. 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff time. We will be on 30 minutes following that with post-game coverage, analysis, your thoughts, chats. Tune in this week on YouTube. Subscribe, listen to the podcast. Joe will have it up for you to hear. For Mark Catone, I'm Chris Corso. Again, San Francisco takes care of New England today, 33-6. So long, everyone.